Hello, good afternoon. I'm Josina Kamling, Head of Regulatory Outreach at CFA Institute and co-president of the Global Ethics and Trust in Finance Prize, 7th edition today. And I'm at the OECD headquarters interviewing the laureates. And with me today, I have two brothers, Andrea and Luca Roncella, who wrote about finance needing bilinguals. And that, of course, was a very thought-provoking title. What that means, actually, is that they mean individuals should and can be multidisciplinary. An engineer can also develop an ethics framework and so forth. It shouldn't just be lawyers looking at ethics. It should be everyone, basically. And to do that, you give a lot of different examples. You look at professional codes, you look at professionalism, you look at universities that are or are not taking ethics into account. You give the example of the MIT. But it is rightly so, because of course finance today, it's not just people who did economics and law. It may be someone who did IT. It may be an engineer, as you quite rightly bring up. And I think this multidisciplinarianism has given rise to concerns because people really don't realize what the importance is of the financial sector. I have met engineers who were into quant and who didn't think at all about that on the other side. There was actually maybe a little old lady buying a derivative product. So I was very interested in your essay. And I have some questions for you. So let's start. On my first one, how important is actually primary education in developing norms of ethical conduct of professional life? Because do we really need to start all the way back in primary education, or is it enough to be starting it at university?
Okay. Thank you so much, first of all, to invite us here in the OECD. And I think education is quite important in some part of our educational development. And indeed, we saw during our study that nowadays more students are from a technical background such as physics or math or engineering, as you said, are entering in the finance world. So they don't have any opportunity to receive any kind of education close to the humanistic or some kind of ethics, and the way these people enter in finance is usually through a master in financial engineering. So what we did in our research was to compare a typical MBA, Master in Business Administration, which is a typical path for a financial advisor or a normal person who wants to work in finance, with a master in financial engineering, which is this kind of masters who are offered for people who don't have a background in economics or finance, and they want to work as a quant or in the back office of these financial institutions. So it's answering to your question, we thought that it is really important to have some humanistic or ethics background in order to work in finance, because you need to know how the society works. So what we saw studying in the academics, but also analyzing the life of several people who works in finance nowadays, is that they don't have any opportunity to receive a course in business ethics. So
Luca, does that mean, so I asked you the question about starting all the way back in primary education, because by the time you get to university, your mind is formed. And does it really, you get additional, of course, education, but surely ethics is so much part of you that you should already start in primary or secondary school.
Yes, I think maybe my brother can help me with this too. But I think there is one ethics, of course, that you can learn during the primary education, of course, and this is really important. But I think also there is a professional ethics that you can learn more during a master or during your career. So how to work well and how to be a good worker is different. I mean, it should be the same as a good person, but sometimes it can be studied in different ways.
Professionalism helps because, for example, at CFA, a CFA charter holder retakes an ethical exam every year. And does this help for you? Is that because it keeps bringing it to the fore, doesn't it? So is that on top of what you may be learning at university?
Yeah, I would say that you are very right when you said that maybe we should go back to the primary school or to the primary education in general to learn ethics. And I would add that nowadays the problem is that for example, in the past, you had other places where you learned about ethics. I'm thinking about family, for example, or the school, of course, or in general, there was a sense of community. And so there was the first place where someone could learn about ethics, about ethical behavior. So now it's an evidence that there is a lack of these places where you can learn ethics, okay? And that should be the first input, the first insight that we receive about reasoning in an ethical way, because this is what we would like to see.
But even, for example, when you're a small child, you learn about fairy tales. Yeah. The good always win. Yeah. And it's a great example of where you want to go with society.
But I wanted to say actually that, for example, if there is a problem not many people read, for example, literature anymore. So this is also a very important issue, a very important problem, because I don't want to idealize the past, because I'm sure there were other problems for sure, but maybe yes, the fairy tales or the literature in general. I'm thinking I am very passionate about the Russian literature, and actually in the paper I talk about this example of Sakharov, and this example came to my mind because I was reading a novel. So it was not an academic paper, and this came to my mind. I said, look, this is something that we can actually use as a framework for this prize. So I think, yes, we need a very deep thinking about and a variety, of course, which are the places nowadays when young people, for example, could learn ethics, because otherwise you can have some ethical issues maybe at the university, but your background, your mind is already shaped in a very specific mechanicistic way, I would say.
Andrea, your love of literature, I share. I think reading is important, because I think what we get nowadays are, if we Google things, we get regurgitated information. We don't know where the source is. We don't know where it comes from. If you read a novel, you know who wrote it. That is one thing. The other thing, of course, is teams. When I started my career, used to be diversified. I was the only lawyer in a team of bond originators. There were some philosophers, historians. You wouldn't find philosophers or historians in a banking group anymore. So how do the two of you look at this? You have both very diverse backgrounds. Your brothers, you wrote this essay together. Maybe start with Andrea and then go to Luca.
So I would say that variety and interdisciplinarity, it's very important. I mean, the idea behind this paper is actually to spread this idea of being bilingual. That means being a bridge between different subjects, different approaches to life, to problems, and so, for example, the problem is that if you think at one of the first, and I would say the father of economics, Adam Smith, he was a moral philosopher. So he was a moral philosopher, and this is something that I don't know how many students of economics they know. because yes, maybe they read some pages of the Wealth of Nation, but they have never heard about the theory of moral sentiment. That was the previous book. So I think that and in this, the university has a very important and a unique role, I would say, because it's the only place where you can actually meet other people and debate.
Actually, I agree with both of you, and of course, but indeed it is one of the core of our paper. We use as example the course of MIT, where they try to add to a really engineering or financial background the humanistic side. So this aspect, I think I work in a consulting and I see the importance to have a different background. And as you said, when you work in a team and you have people from law, from engineering, from biology, from economics, the idea can improve and can spread out much better. So I completely agree. The problem that we saw is that many times in this quant unit, they don't have this kind of background, or at least they don't have the humanistic side of this background. And this master in financial engineering could help to put some of this humanistic spirit, and they don't have it.
You know what might also be the problem is that when you enter into a financial group, you're supposed to be very quickly relevant in terms of profitability. When I started, we had a year and a half of training when you could see all the different aspects of the bank, when you would talk to different people. So you have to perform very quickly and you have to make money very quickly. Of course, this may then have further questions about the whole model of a bank or a financial services group with low interest rates. It is an incredibly competitive environment. And that brings me to my last question is, how do you think professional institutions can ensure that their employees understand and think about the social implications of their actions?
If you want, I can start. So I think that in the academia, to start, in the last 15 years, there has been maybe a movement, in particular after the financial crisis, actually of 2008, there has been a movement to change many paradigms that were at the bottom of many economic and managerial decision-making processes. So my hope is that as this new movement, let's call it in this way, started in academia, in the next years, it will, in a kind of trickle-down effect, it will arrive also to the professional and practitioner world. And there are good examples of that, because, I mean, keeping the speech on finance and financial institutions, all these attentions that there is around, for example, the ESG criteria or the impact investing in finance, it's something, I guess, good, at least in theory. Then we have to see if it's just a kind of a greenwashing strategy. That could be. But I want to be open and very hopefully about this. That something can actually change.
Sustainable finance can actually be a force to good.
Yeah, for example.
Because you are actually being forced to think about the good of the planet.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that, Luca?
No, yes, of course. Yes, of course. I think one of these is one of the main points. And actually, when I see in the professional life, every day is more important the ecological impact, the social impact. So this is, of course, one of the main points. But I think that also, in order to help this improvement in the professional life, we need to intervene also in the university. So as we said in the paper, as in the MBA right now, almost all the biggest and most important MBA programs offer a course in business ethics, and the majority of them are mandatory. I think that also in other disciplines where maybe are more technical, we should involve this ethical part.
A similar sort of training.
Yeah, I think so.
Right, and that would be a start. And then companies have to take over and make sure that the implications of what employees do is not just thinking about profitability, but also about the social implications.
And also, as you started, I think, or we were talking before, but when you do the CFA, there is one big part which is related to ethics. So in our paper, we say that there is this other certificate for quants, the certificates of quantitative finance, and they don't have any point regarding society or ethics or the other. I mean, at the end, when we talk of finance, we're talking about humans. So you don't need you need to take that into account.
Because a financier is like a doctor, but for the financial side of a person. And the implications, if you do it wrong for that person, you really affect their lives. So again, there's a serious responsibility there. And it should be taken as such. Thank you very much, both of you. Very enjoyable. Thank you.